Hello everyone, myself Dr. Sneha Bhatia. Today I will be talking about lumbar spine observation. So before I start with my lecture, I would like to request my audience to please subscribe to my channel, to press the bell icon to get notified for the next video, and to share this channel with your friends. So for the observation of the lumbar spine, the patient should be first of all suitably undressed. We have to note the willingness to move, we have to note the pattern of the movement, and we have to observe the patient in standing position as well as in the sitting position. So willingness to move means when the patient is able to perform the movement or not. For example, if flexion is giving pain to the patient, then whether the patient, if you ask the patient to bend forward, the patient is trying to bend forward or he is having fear avoidance behavior. Fear avoidance behavior means if flexion movement is painful, then patient will avoid to bend forward. So that we have to note whether the patient is having fear avoidance behavior or he is having the willingness to move or not. Next, we have to observe the body type of the patient. So body type can be mainly classified into three things: ectomorphic, mesomorphic and endomorphic. Ectomorphic means thin body build and prominence of ectoderm of structures. So the structures which are developed from the embryonic ectoderm, those structures will be prominent. Mesomorphic means muscular body build. So in that, prominence of mesoderm structures will be present. So the structures which are developed from the mesoderm, embryonic mesoderm, that will be prominent. And the third body type is the endomorphic. So in that, the patient will be heavy body build, and we can say patient will be fat, and the prominence of endoderm structures will be present. So this endomorphic body type is characterized by relative prominence of structures developed from the embryonic endoderm. Next, we have to observe the gait of the patient. So whether the patient is having normal gait pattern or he is having abnormal gait pattern, and limb problem exists or not. So for example, if the patient is having any alteration in the gait, then it can be due to limb problem. But if the limb problem is not present, so because of pain also, in certain pathological condition, for in case of lumbar spine pathology, the patient will be experiencing pain, and due to that pain the patient will have abnormal gait. So we have to identify whether the gait abnormality which exists in the case of the patient, that is due to the limb problem or it is due to the spinal problem. And gait is altered to relieve the symptoms. So sometimes when the patient is experiencing pain, what he will do, he will try to change his gait cycle and have some kind of trick movement, so which will relieve the symptoms, so he can walk pain free. So in case of pain, when pain is generated during normal gait cycle, so patient will try to walk in that manner, and he will try to adjust new trick movement, and he will develop faulty patterns for gait. So because due to that faulty postures and abnormal gait cycle, he may have some relief of the symptom. So patient may develop abnormal gait pattern also just to relieve the pain. Next, we have to observe the attitude of the patient, whether the patient is lethargic or overweight, what is the overall appearance of the patient, whether the patient appears tense, bored, lethargic, healthy looking or overweight. Next, we have to observe the spinal posture. So whether the patient is having antalgic posture, loss of lumbar lordosis is present or not. So we all know that there is presence of lumbar lordosis in case of the lumbar spine. If there is loss of lumbar lordosis, then it can indicate some pathology of the spine. So we have to note whether normal lordosis is present or it is decreased. Then we have to check whether lateral shift or scoliosis is present or not. So lateral shift or scoliosis is the lateral curvature of the spine. So in case the patient is having scoliotic deformity, then lateral shift will be prominent. We can note this lateral shift from the anterior view as well as the posterior view. So in case of lateral shift deformity, if we observe that, then it will help us in the diagnosis. We have to see the posture in the anterior view from the lateral aspect as well as from the posterior view. So looking from all these views, it will give us clear idea about the patient's pathology. Next is the neutral pelvis. So neutral pelvis is there or not. So when the patient is standing in the normal anatomical position during observation, we have to note whether the pelvis is in neutral position or not. Or if it is not in neutral position, then the patient is able to achieve the neutral pelvis position or not. Suppose if the pelvis position is not normal, then if we ask the patient to change some faulty pattern, then whether patient is able to do it or not. Many people with the back pain are unable to maintain a neutral pelvis position. So in neutral pelvis position, anteriorly the head should be straight on the shoulders and the nose should be in line with the manubrium, sternum and xiphisternum or umbilicus. The shoulder and the clavicle should be level and equal. Although the dominant side may be slightly lower, the waist angle should be equal, and we have to see whether the patient is having a shift or not. So if the patient is having the shift, then which side he is having the shift, that we have to take care. And we have to also see for any kind of muscle spasm, because if there is spinal muscle spasm present, then that may also alter the spinal posture. So this is the picture. Patient is standing in different position from different view. So patient is in standing position. Picture A is from the anterior view, picture B is from the posterior view, picture C is from the lateral view, and picture D with the excessive lordosis. So in the picture D, we can see that in the lumbar region, exaggeration of the lordosis is prominent. So we can see clearly that excessive lordosis is present in case of picture D. So when we are observing the patient from the lateral view, we have to see the lordosis, whether the lordosis is normal, whether it is decreased. Decreased lordosis means flat back posture. So if the patient is having flat back posture, then the lordosis will be decreased. Or if the patient is having excessive lordosis, that also we have to take a note. So this is the picture showing the lateral shift or list. It is also called as list. So there are, in conditions of sciatica also, list can be present. So sciatic list is seen on the left side, or it is also called as lateral shift. And in scoliosis also we can see the list or lateral shift. So in case of scoliosis, there will be compensatory curve, there will be one main curve, and because to compensate for the changes that has occurred because of the deviation in the main curve, the compensatory curve will also be seen. So we can see in this picture of scoliosis, in the middle portion we have the main curve, and superior and inferior to that we have the compensatory curve. So this is the picture showing the pelvis cross syndrome as described by Janda. So in this picture we can see that ASIS anteriorly it will be low, PSIS posteriorly it will be high. Anterior muscles, that are the abdominal muscles, it will be lengthened and weak. So whichever muscles have gone for lengthening, those muscles are going for weakness. So abdominal muscles will be lengthened and weak. Here also we can see posteriorly gluteus muscles will be going for lengthening and it will be weak. So anteriorly abdominal muscles will be lengthened and weak, and posteriorly gluteals will be lengthened and weak. Also we can see there will be tightness anteriorly in the iliopsoas muscle. Iliopsoas, which is the hip flexor muscle, so that will be showing the tightness. Posteriorly we can see the erector spinae muscle, which is the spinal extensor, that will be having the tightness. So anteriorly iliopsoas muscle will have the tightness, and posteriorly erector spinae muscle will have the tightness. So this is called as lower cross syndrome, or it is also called as pelvic cross syndrome. Why? Because here opposite two group of muscles are going for lengthening and weakness, and another two group of muscles are going for tightness. So that is why it is called as lower cross syndrome. So remember, in the lower cross syndrome, abdominals will be lengthened and weak, and posteriorly gluteus will be lengthened and weak, anteriorly iliopsoas will be tight, and posteriorly erector spinae will be tight. So next we have to see for the step deformity. So what is a step deformity? A step deformity in the lumbar spine may indicate a spondylolisthesis. So what is spondylolisthesis? Spondylolisthesis is a pathological condition in which one vertebra slips over the other vertebra. So what is happening mainly at the L4 L5 region? The L4 will slip forward on the L5, so that will be called as L4 L5 spondylolisthesis. The step occurs because the spinous process of one vertebra becomes prominent when either of the vertebra above. So why the step is visible? The step will be seen on observation as well as on palpation when we are palpating for the spinous process, when the patient is in prone position, and if we palpate for the spinous process, that time also step deformity will be felt by a dip. So the inferior vertebra spinous process will be not prominent, so we can feel a dip there. So step deformity can be seen on observation as well as it will be again confirmed by the examiner on palpation. So when the step deformity is present, then we can say that there can be chances of spondylolisthesis. So even in the case of spondylolytic spondylolisthesis, the step deformity can be present. So it is often helpful for the examination purpose that the examiner asks the patient whether patient has noticed this kind of deformity, or he is having a pain in the localized region. Then the examiner should ask the patient in which region he is having pain. So if the patient is pinpointing a particular point, then we have to examine that part. So this is the picture showing the step deformity in the lumbar spine. So in picture A we can see there is a bump which is caused by spondylosis. In picture B we can see because of spondylolisthesis there is a bump, and these two pictures are showing us the step deformity. So for today's video I have taken the content from the book David Magee Orthopedic Physical Assessment. So thank you for watching this video. If you have enjoyed watching this video, then please subscribe to my channel, press the bell icon to get notified for the next video, and share this channel with your friends. Thank you.